Okay, here we go. Ha 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 ha. Leave that in, you idiot, Adrian. Hi everyone, Adrian from Audio Excellence, Lewis on my right, and Mike. We're doing a video today on the new Acora MRC2 speakers. They're behind me, behind the boys. We did a quote-unquote non-unboxing video previously, and one of the boys will link it in the description. There's more details in that video, so you might want to watch that as well. So let me just backtrack very quickly to give you an idea of what this is all about. Acora is a Canadian company. Val Cora is the president and chief designer of the company. I guess as of about 2019 or so, he relaunched the company. Had previously been toying with the products and making speakers and so on, but really finally made real commercially available products and showed at the Rocky Mountain, if I'm not wrong. That's where I first saw the speakers. I was really intrigued, and then of course COVID hit and everything was shut down. But right after COVID, he went crazy and went to every show to promote the products. And you can see from show reports, they consistently got best sound at the show or one of the best sounds at the shows. And people were blown away by the amazing clarity, transparency, detail, and the build quality of the speakers. One of the challenges is that they're quite expensive. The regular series, the SRCs and the VRCs and the QRCs are many tens of thousands of dollars. And I knew in the back of his mind he always wanted to make another line that was going to be more affordable. So finally, last October or September, late September, October, he brought a pair in for us to check out. And this was one of his last prototypes, and we were all universally quite impressed. And we brought them to the Toronto Audio Fest, where it was really sort of hidden, and only press and some other people were allowed to hear. But then the word got around very quickly, and then all pretense was dropped. The curtain were open, and people just started to come in. And I think universally people were very impressed. Mike mentioned that he actually teared up listening to the speakers. And I didn't get a chance to actually hear them, ironically enough, during the show, because I was busy running around and also doing a couple of projects. And then I guess about a couple of weeks ago, he finally brought in our first pair. These are the MRC2s. So let me talk a little bit about the MRC2s. They are $12,999 US or $16,999 Canadian. They're 2.5 way with two 7-inch ceramic base mid-range drivers and one 1-inch, it says here, ultra hard ceramic dome tweeter, as opposed to not so hard ceramic dome tweeter. So this one has serious dosage of Viagra. Okay, those of you who don't know. 4-ohm load, 92 dB sensitivity, 32 to 25 kilohertz. The enclosures are all made with natural marble. 14.5. Now, these dimensions, the first two dimensions are based around the outriggers, okay? So 14.5 inches wide, 17.5 inches deep, and 47 inches high. Or for the rest of the world, 36.83 centimeters wide, 44.45 centimeters deep, and 119.38 centimeters high, 180 pounds each, or 81.82 kilograms. Standard finishes, Botticino's. It's like a beige with gold veins, or Grigio Carnico, a gray with white veins, which is what we have here. The system we used was the Lumen P1 streamer with the DAC built in. I also had, over that time, an MSB reference DAC in here. And then our friend brought over something called a CEN.Grand DS DAC, which I also tried a couple of days ago just out of curiosity. And then cables are Shunyata Theta cables with the Griffin Diablo 333 integrated amplifier. Okay, who wants to start? Mike?
I'll go.
You want to go?
No,
Okay,
go, Mike.
Okay, Mike.
Okay. I'm usually very nervous when I don't like being in front of the camera, so I'm very nervous. And
Couldn't tell.
when I try to speak or read, I get ahead of myself, and it's difficult for me.
Speak in Italian.
But I wanted to do these justice. So just gonna list my 3 tracks right now, because my feelings were the same for all of them. Paul Simon, me and Julio down by the schoolyard, The Who, The Real Me, Bach Concerto for Harpsichords, third movement, conducted by Bob Van Asperen and is performed by Malante Amsterdam, which is like it's an ensemble. It's not really an orchestra within a home. Hearing these tunes, I've been listening to these tunes for a long time, especially two of them, the two classic rock ones. It was like rediscovering music for the first time. I know it's a cliche, we say that for a lot of speakers. Usually don't say it for speakers around this price point ever. The way they presented the mix, there was a newfound clarity that I haven't heard anywhere close to this price range. Everything was very present. There was also this a weight in the mid-range and the bottom that seemed to come through track after track. I said it's very subjective, but it was also unmistakable to me. It was able to hit me viscerally. I was getting emotional listening to some of these tracks, especially the Who one, because the Who one doesn't sound good on a lot of systems. Beyond their sound quality, the level of craftsmanship, I think, actually is part of their sound quality. They're beautifully made, they're meticulously engineered, is what I said. And I come from a marble background. My father was in marble. It's very possible Val's dad and my dad worked together at one point in the same company. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I have a soft spot in my heart for these speakers. Just even if they sounded like crap, I would still have a soft spot. But they're built in such a way that Val did an incredible job where the enclosure does not get in the way of the sound, or at least it's helping the drivers be as clear and as transparent and uncolored as they can be. But there is nothing harsh about these speakers whatsoever. There's a sense of presence and dynamics that was just, it was beautiful. I played some other hot tracks with hot horns, and it handled it so well. And some of these tracks, they really will make your ears hurt on a lot of speakers. What did I say? There was a sense of euphoria that seemed to emerge with everything that I listened to. Like, again, I was happy to listen to them. Every time I came into the room, I was happy that I was working in this room and I got to listen to them. And yeah, here's one thing though, and this is very, very, very slight.
You might want to leave it to the end.
Yeah?
Leave
Okay.
it in. Yeah.
Okay.
Leave a teaser.
Okay. Okay.
I have no idea what he's saying, but if it's a caveat, let's leave it to the end. Louis?
Well, I have spent a lot of time with them because I just love them. One thing I will say, it's a very balanced speaker. It's not too much mid-range. It's not too much treble or hot on the top. Bass, it's good. It's not great. I guess because of the 7-inch drivers. And it's hard because we have so many speakers in here, what outputs a lot of bass, but not in the same price range.
That's the Jamaican in you.
That's the bass.
The bass.
Be us.
But tonally, they're fantastic. The aesthetic is fantastic. The box is inert, so you don't have any box sound coming from the speakers. The only thing I would say, I would like a little bit more bass. And I told Val that. But it could be also that because we listen to a lot of others, you know, not amplifiers, but speakers with, you know, much more bass. I mean, like Wilson's and the other big Sonus Fabers. So it's hard to compare, but you get accustomed to listening to a certain level of reproduction. So you may want to compare, but it's not fair to compare these. But I don't think that there's anything in its price range or price point what will have a total overall balance than these speakers. Definitely.
Is it my turn? Okay. I just fell asleep. I didn't get much sleep last night. As I mentioned, my first impressions of the original prototype were very positive, and I told Val, "Good for you." And I was excited because I could hear a lot of the family sound already, even at that time. So I was looking forward to these. So when he and Nate brought them over, and then the next couple of days I started to spend more time with them, I was very, very impressed. Basically put it this way: if you've heard the Acoras and you know what I'm talking about, then these are literally about 90% of those Acoras. They've got the same kind of clarity, transparency, speed, detail, unboxiness, non-boxiness, whatever the word is. Big sound stage, the speaker is completely detached from the sound, right? You just don't hear the sound coming out of the speakers. For anywhere from half to 1/3 the price of the other models, which is insane because it means that, and in fact, Val in a private, maybe I shouldn't mention it because it was private, but for what it's worth, if these don't outsell most speakers in its price range, I would be shocked. And if they don't, it's not because of the sound. It really isn't. For those of you, it's hard to sometimes describe sound because you and I don't hear the same thing. We don't describe things the same way. So let me use analogies or speakers that maybe some of you will know better. So think of the better focals, that kind of forwardness, immediacy, clarity. The same thing, but without the forwardness. So if you find some of the focals to be too much in your face, pull them back. They're definitely more laid back, more natural, more neutral, but it's got the same kind of clarity, same kind of speed and detail. Think of Martin Logan's. Again, if you've heard Martin Logan's, it's got that same kind of transient response, as Mike was saying, the speed, the clarity, the detail. But it's got a more continuous bass driver because they're all using the same technology as opposed to, let's say, a powered woofer in the ESL15s. Now, as Louis mentioned, we're spoiled with some speakers that have a lot of bass. Like the simplest one being the MoFi 888. That's a bass speaker. That's a crazy bass speaker. This doesn't have quite that. It's not quite as exuberant, but it's tighter, it's faster, it's more detailed, it's more controlled. But a lot more money, right? So going back to the Martin Logan's, the ESL15, for example, it's got similar kinds of speed and electrostatic characteristics, but whereas the Martin Logan has big, round, powerful, wall-shaking bass, this will do that at a higher levels and when the recording has that deep, powerful bass. But when the recording is not exuberant that way. And depending on what you like, sometimes you'll miss it like Louis, sometimes you won't. So that's an example. Or a Magical. In many respects, they sound similar to the Magicals that I know, but at a lot less money. Whereas the Magicals are the ones, again, I'm thinking of the 40s and 50s and $60,000. These are $17,999 Canadian or 17,000 Canadian or 13,000 US. 13,000 US versus, again, the 30, 40, 50,000 and up. That's how good these are. And to give you an idea of how transparent they were, when Val and Nate were here, one of the complaints I mentioned quietly to Val 2 days afterwards was that I heard something I wasn't crazy about. He said, try changing this, and I did. I won't mention what it is because I'm still exploring. And I called him back and said, that's it. That's exactly what solved the problem. And he says, great. And then he underlined, that's how transparent they are. And I said, yes, you're right. They are that transparent. It didn't even occur to me that that's what was happening. And then to underline that further, I could easily hear differences between interconnects, easily hear differences between the interconnects. Power cables. I mentioned a bunch of DACs earlier on in the beginning. You could easily hear the differences between the DAC in the P1 versus the Sandot Grand versus the reference DAC from MSB. You could easily hear it. It was so obvious. So the question becomes, how about musicality? So it does all the audiophile stuff really, really well. Did it stir my soul? Well, Mike said, he was excited and teared up. Same with Louis. He was, they both enjoyed coming in to listen to it. That was the one thing that I was concerned about the first 2 days, because I noticed that there was something that I didn't like about it. And then Val recommended, I tried this, and I did, and resolved it. And once it was resolved, absolutely, it stirred my soul. But there's a caveat, which we'll talk at the end. Here are some musical examples. Mozart's Piano Concerto No. 21 in C Andante with, I'm going to butcher her name, I'm sorry, Hai Kyung-soo, and the Academy of St. Martin in the Fields. It's a beautiful melodic piece of music. Mozart at his best. Quiet, introspective, piano piece, and then the orchestra in the background. And the moment I played it, it immediately brought me back to the 70s when my father would come in from one of his long extended business trips, and he would take the 5 of us, at the time there were 5 of us, in his old Volvo 244 or 246, I can't remember. And Singapore at the time was very, very humid and very, very hot, and so all the windows would be up, the air conditioning's blasting, and I remember the name of the air conditioning unit, Nippon Denso. I don't know why but I remember that. And both he and my mom chain smoked like crazy. So the car is full of smoke. I can still smell that cigarette smell. Lucky strike. And he would play his music in the background. And on this particular occasion, it was the Mozart. He loved Von Karajan, and I believe it was probably Von Karajan, but it could have been somebody else. And while he's driving, he would be conducting. He'd be doing his conduct. And this brought me so much joy listening to the music and the system. Lang Lang playing the minute waltz. The album is Lang Lang at Royal Albert Hall. You could hear the speed and dexterity of his fingering, and then the audience in the background. And while he's doing that, the audience laughs, and I laugh along with them. It just stirs up this emotional joy in listening to this piece of music. Now let's get to the caveats, if there's any. Mike, you seem to have a caveat.
Yeah. Again, amazing speakers. If I have to say that something is wrong with them, I wanted a little bit more fullness and warmth and plumpness from the bass. Other than that, they're as perfect as can be.
You like the Greek statues as opposed to the models that we have today?
I will say this, and Adrian touched on it, and usually a lot of times the amps are being moved in and out, but for the most part it's been the Griffin Diablo 333. I would love to hear this with some other amps, because Adrian is right. I think they are definitely transparent enough that you can easily hear the differences in components and even cables, which is a difficult one.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear it with like a 462, and maybe with a tube preamp.
Yeah.
Because I think they're that good. They're that transparent that matching components becomes critical with this one, because it will definitely steer the sound to where you want it to be.
Louis, do you have any caveats?
No.
There you go.
No, I
Man with few words.
As I said, the same day they were in here, I asked for a little bit more bass. That's my only caveat. It's not that I would have to have that much more
And that's
bass.
why Louis, the moment that we got in our new shipment of Wilson Loki subs, he immediately uncrated them and slid them in here, hooked them up, and turned them on.
Man, I tell you, that Loki sub was shaking the panels like crazy in here.
Just for clarification, we turned it off. For the
Yes. But the tracks which I like to test the speakers with, I played Gordon Goodwin Sing Sang Song, Grover Washington Take 5, his cover of Take 5, which is totally different from Dave Brubeck. but it has a lot of, these tracks have a lot of bass, so it wasn't lacking at all. It's just that compared to the other dynamic speakers, it was a little bit shy, but I would not say there's no bass.
The Beyonce track Partition with that, it felt like it was going on forever. On some speakers, it kind of just dissipates and you don't hear anymore. Even some of the great speakers, which I consider to be warm and full, this just kept on going and going as far down as the recording had it. So it's there. It's just
Yeah, if it's in the recording, you'll hear it for sure. I think what Louis and I sometimes wish a little bit more of is a little bit more meat.
Meat on the bones.
In the bass, whereas he likes the mid more in the mid range. Yeah. So my caveat is that on average recordings, you're going to hear that it is average. It's not going to hide it. It's not going to sugarcoat it. In fact, I pointed out his motto, Acora's motto, is hear the truth. So if it's an average recording, it's going to be average. You're not going to miss that fact. If it's a good recording, it's going to sound great. If it's an excellent recording, you're going to love it, absolutely love it. So that is one of my caveats, and I'll give you an example. During the lockdown, I had all this time and I didn't know what to do with it, so I would watch a lot of videos, and then I would start watching videos by conductors to learn more about the music. And one of them is Benjamin Zander. I've mentioned him a while ago. And he would go into these details about what the composers said in the notes and how they wanted the composition to be played. So in particular, Beethoven's Number 5. And he mentioned that a lot of the famous recordings that we all know, all the interpretations, are in fact wrong speed. And so his particular interpretation is at the speed that Beethoven wanted, insisted on. But unfortunately, it's not a great recording. When I listened to Benjamin Zander's Beethoven's Number 5, you could hear that it was an average to almost poor recording. So it was muffled, not very separated. I still enjoyed his interpretation. I still enjoyed it. But you could tell, you wished it was a better recording. That was the one caveat. I guess the other one would be, again, similar to what Mike had just touched on. I would like a slightly more meat on the bones, particularly in the harmonics. But that's where, again, what Mike just said about using the Diablo, when he said we primarily use the Diablo, I looked at my notes and said, there it is. Here's what I said. I want to try other electronics, including Daniel Hurst's Maria 350, Macintosh MC 350, 450, 462, because trying different electronics might give us more of the results that we would like. So that's something I think we will maybe do a part 2 on. Yeah. Here's a couple of questions for you guys, just off the top of my head as I was looking at this. What do you think the speakers, so they're about 17,000 Canadian. In your mind, for the speakers that we carry, let's specifically say Sonus Faber.
Nova 3s.
Can you give a quick synopsis of how these sound like versus how the Sonus Fabers sound like? A quick synopsis, maybe a paragraph.
I like the Nova 3s on the Sonus Faber, the Olympica Nova 3s, as well as the 5s. This price point is much lower than even the 3s. The 3s have this fullness and balance, which I like. I'm more of a tone person than I'm of, let's say, give me more bass, give me more mid-range, give me more treble. I'm more of a tone person. Maybe because I've listened to so many MP3 recordings instead of high fidelity, but I still prefer how these would compare at this price point to a Sonus Faber, between or higher than this. this really gets to me. I really like how these sound. Yeah,
If you had to pick one, which would you pick?
That's difficult because you hear something today and you hear something else tomorrow, and audible memory is kind of difficult for me.
And your mood changes as well.
Yep.
Yeah. That's why I typically, when I'm testing, I listen to the same tracks over and over and over, with the same, sequence or whatever it is. So I try and using my memory to see which one I would like, which one I would prefer. It's very, very difficult because they're very good speakers. I mean, the Sonus Faber is not no flash in the pan. They have credence and a beauty about them. Even looking at them, and the fit and finish, it's fantastic. The fit and finish of these are also very good. Yeah. So,
Mike, what do you think?
I love the Nova series, which this would compete with in that price range. Both the 3s and the 5s, we love them. We absolutely love them. I will say there is a transparency in these on the track. The Bach-Concerto for harpsichords, it's 4 harpsichords and a string section. And on the Novas, don't get me wrong, the sound's absolutely fantastic, but there is a layering, there's a depth that it kind of compresses. Whereas on these guys, this track, you can hear everything. Like it just opened up, and I was hearing again for the first time things that I had never heard, little string parts and the differentiation of the harpsichords, and just the subtle tone differences in the instruments was just, it floored me. It absolutely floored me. So today, I would choose these. I would be very fastidious in my amp choices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also something we have to look into as well. Some people like more transparency than they would like bass, and some people would prefer bass more than give up some transparency to get bass. So it depends on where you fall, which category you would want to be under. But it's it's a difficult call to me.
Yeah, I have the same issue in terms of which I would choose. Like Mike said, these will give you a layering and clarity that the Sonus Faber doesn't focus on. It's there. It's just part of the gestalt. Whereas this, you'll hear it. This is without effort. It's just all there. On a great recording, these will do a better job. On an average recording, the Sonus Faber will probably be a better choice. Yeah. So it depends also a lot on the percentage of recordings that you have that are average versus very good. What's also interesting is Mike kept saying, you're going to hear stuff you've never heard before. So right there, you're going to hear stuff you've never heard before. Again, they're so good in so many ways that it's very hard to choose. In a part 2, perhaps we're going to talk about how they compare to maybe a Wilson, because that we haven't done. Anyway, running short of time, so thank you for watching. We're concluding. As far as I'm concerned, these are absolutely phenomenal. They will do justice to the money that you spend and more. If you get a chance, please go check them out. I believe this weekend, today's what, February the 22nd or 23rd? 22nd. There's a show in Florida. So unfortunately, this will come out too late, but if you guys get a chance to check out these speakers, I think these will be at the show in Florida, and others. Check them out and let us know what you think in the comments below. If you've heard of Acoras, what do you think of them? And hopefully we'll see you again next time. Take care. Bye-bye.